right, everybody, hi, welcome back. Attorney Steve Vondran here. Okay, so we've got a new video for you. This is something I was going to do for my law clerks, okay? So when you're new to law or you're new to researching the law, sometimes it's overwhelming. You can go to like a legal search engine, or you can go find things on Google Scholar is another place I like to find cases. But you may not know, you may not be able to put two pieces together and say, what the heck is going on here? So I wanted to do this quick video. It's for my law clerks, but I figured I would show everybody, for everybody out there that may be new to the law, trying to figure out what happened. So here's my chart. Sorry for the pencil drawing, but I couldn't figure out any software that would help me make this more clear to you. So you're just gonna have to follow along with my giant cursor here. So we have Congress, we have the House and the Senate, and we have the president here. And you know how a bill starts in one house and goes to the other, and eventually the president signs it, and it becomes the law. So these in Congress, these are considered federal laws or statutes. And again, president signs it. Now, president also has the executive order power, and that can have the full force and effect of law as well. So we are talking about the different sources of law. So federal law, this is what you're looking at. You also have international treaties, which actually become the law of the land. It gets a little complicated whether or not you can actually enforce them and how that all works. So I'm not going to touch on that here, and perhaps in a future video. Make sure to subscribe. Okay, so but here's your federal law, and then down here we have state law. I'm going to use California. It's my fancy map drawing for California. So the same thing, you have a state legislature, you have a state House, you have a state Senate, they pass laws. These have become state laws or statutes, same thing. So you have federal laws, you have state laws, and then down at the city level, counties, there's ordinances and things that can be adopted. So these are kind of like your main sources of law. So you're going to have federal law, you're going to have state law, and you're going to have local ordinances, rules, regulations, those kinds of things. Okay, so that's in general what it is. Now, as we all know, many of us know that words are open to interpretation. These statutes, many times these statutes are written and adopted and promoted by lobbyists. So there may be a lot of different interests in there. There may be a lot of different pieces. There may be some conflicts and overlapping with existing laws. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff to consider whenever you're looking at a legal case. You want to make sure you're looking at what you're dealing with. If you're in copyright, let's say copyright infringement law, something like that, we do a lot of that. You're going to be up here in federal law. This is federal law. You're not going to see much state law, okay? You're not going to see state law. You're not going to see city ordinances talking about your city council and your mayor talking about copyright rules. It's just not going to happen. So this is federal law. Now, a lot of other things are state law, like defamation, right, of publicity, the trespass laws, your criminal laws, your penal code, things like that. So this is basically your sources of law. But again, because things can be ambiguous, they can be vague, it can be conflicting. This is why we have courts. So over here, as you can see, we have our legislative branch. This is the legislature. We have our executive branch. These are your three branches of government. And coming over here, we have our courts. What are the courts for? We have both state courts and federal courts, okay? There's limited ways to get into a federal court, and any state law, for the most part, will get you into state courts. So the courts will be clarifying ambiguities. They will be making what we call case law. Do you see here? Case law. This is what we call judge-made law, okay? And so, again, you have state courts, federal courts. We do copyright infringement cases. There's a lot of federal court cases we deal with. I have also filed extensively in state courts, okay? But now we are doing, majority of our cases are federal courts, okay? I think we've been in over 175 cases or something like that, maybe more by now. But anyway, the courts clarify the ambiguities. The courts decide the disputes. The court hears the facts. The courts and the jury hear the facts of the case, and they render decisions. The lower courts in either the state level or the federal level is called the lower courts. They're called the trial courts. This is where where the facts are being discovered. Now, here in these cases, you'll have jury verdicts and you'll have decisions. One person's liable, one person's not. But these are not, you could cite these as kind of cases and what other judges did, but what you're really looking for down here is the cases that started here and they come up on appeal. They say, you know what, bad decision, I'm going to appeal it. Now here, this is where you have judge and jury. This is where you have a 3-panel branch usually. A judicial review by 3, maybe more attorneys, check your jurisdiction. But these judges are going to hear you. They're going to rapid fire questions at you. The parties are going to be there. No jury. There's not going to be a jury in appellate court. Okay. Their decision is going to become your case law. This is what you're looking for. Okay. So if it's a state court of appeals, that's what you're looking for. Federal court of appeals, yes, there's your case law. This is precedent, okay? This is precedent. As I've mentioned to my clerks, it's based on the system of stare decisis. Stare decisis, meaning new cases should be settled similar to or the same way as the old cases were. So we have some confidence in our law, so we know what the law is. Now, there's always distinctions in the law. There's different sets of facts that can arise, and so you can have distinguishing factors, and this is what our lawyers argue about. Okay, this is what we argue about at all levels. When I say argue, we mean present intelligent, logical, coherent, succinct arguments. Okay, but you have different kinds of cases. So you may have the precedent from a federal court of appeals, let's say. You have this precedent. Now, this could be in your jurisdiction. For example, if I'm doing something in the Central District of California and I have an appellate case from Central District of California, that's nice. We're right here in the same jurisdiction. So that could be binding law, could be highly persuasive. But this is what you're looking at now that you have the case law. You're saying, is it in jurisdiction or is it out of jurisdiction? It may still be what we call persuasive, as you can see here, persuasive law. But maybe the case is coming out of New York federal court, and you say, well, I'm in the Northern District federal court in the Bay Area. So how does this case help me? It's in the New York federal courts. It's precedent. It was an appellate court case, but it's really out of jurisdiction. But you can still argue it. You can still argue it to show the federal judges what other judges are doing in other districts. Okay, so it couldn't be very persuasive, but you want to know the difference of what you have. Okay, now let's take it even one further step in our final step. Is some cases, sometimes I read the Holy Grail case. I go, oh my gosh, this is in my jurisdiction. It's appellate court. Wow, just fantastic. And then you look at the top and it says not to be published, not for publication. You go, what? Okay, so when that happens, and sometimes I haven't totally figured it out, but many times it happens in new or novel areas of law, to the best that I can tell, the best that I have seen. And it's something where a judge does not want to create a precedent, but they want to decide the case in favor of the plaintiff or the defendant or whatever, but they don't want it published. They don't want it cited. So you always have to check your local rules. What can you cite? There's times when you cannot even cite these cases, okay? And I think I did a video on that a couple years back. I don't remember, but this is important. If it's ordered for publication, I should say order for publication, bingo, that's good to go. So what you're really looking for is you're looking at your statutes, you're looking at your case law, you're trying to find good decisions in your jurisdiction and that are published for citation. Okay, this is stare decisis. Don't forget, what's the Supreme Court? Supreme Court, the state has a Supreme Court. Cities don't have Supreme Courts, but the state has a Supreme Court. Congress has a federal Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., and this is literally the top law in the state. And if it's issued by the federal government, the United States Supreme Court, what do we call that? The law of the land. The law of the land, baby. That's the law of the land. So this is general legal information only. This is kind of like a good mental framework when you're trying to understand what law is, what you're looking for, what you found, what you can cite. check your rules, what's going to be persuasive, what's going to be binding, what is just going to be completely irrelevant. Okay, so again, you want these cases, as we call them, quote unquote, on all fours. Your facts are on all fours, but again, as a lawyer for 15 years, there are always a lot of distinguishing factors. Not always, but many, many times. Okay, so that's a basic overlook. Attorney Steve, Sources of Law, Law 101, as I call it. General legal information only and not legal advice. Hope this has been helpful. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Takes me time to do these videos, but we're working hard to get everybody educated. Our mission to make law more accessible and give people access to justice. Okay, I consider that to be a professional obligation of mine. So take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll talk again. Make sure to subscribe to our channel.